The ranking member is now recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Minow, you worked in the DOJ's antitrust division. Is there any evidence that ISS and Glass Lewis are colluding?
There is none.
Is there any evidence that they're fixing prices?
There is no evidence of that.
Is there any evidence that they are blocking new entrants?
No, there are new entrants all the time, as I mentioned, including 2 nonprofits and 2, one started by Vivek Ramaswamy, that are explicitly anti-woke.
Typically, when competitors collude, they do so to raise prices. The majority, however, is alleging that ISS and Glass Lewis are colluding to push ESG and DEI agendas. But at the same time, the majority is arguing that ESG and DEI issues are detrimental to the companies that their clients are invested in. If both things are true, wouldn't this collusion mean that investors are getting bad advice from proxy advisors and that therefore the investors would be incentivized to change providers?
Absolutely, and let's remember that the clients of the proxy advisor services are enormous, multi-billion-dollar financial firms who are very sophisticated and who are completely driven by shareholder returns. Furthermore, ISS and Glass Lewis, and I presume all the other proxy advisor firms, are constantly in touch with their clients saying, do we need to change our policies to better reflect your priorities? So the people who purchase those services are market-driven, and the people who provide the services are market-driven to meet their needs.
Thank you. And are there competitors that these investors could turn to, but we are not seeing a retreat from these firms? Isn't that correct?
That's right. You know, if Sean's firm wants to compete with ISS and Glass Lewis, he should probably try to produce a better product. And what I really don't understand is why he thinks he has a right to the platform that they built with their time, with their energy, with their expertise. It would be like my saying, I'd like to send my packages through Amazon trucks because they've got this great infrastructure. If he wants to compete with that, let him build his own, make it better.
And assuming that the majority is right, these actions would presumably undermine ISS and Glass Lewis's own bottom lines and revenue, and therefore would hurt these firms and damage their position in the market. But there's no evidence of that, is there?
There is no evidence of that.
Ms. Minow, the majority also claims that ISS and Glass Lewis prevent new market entrants because they control voting platforms as well as provide advisory services. Is this true?
No, they develop their own platforms, just as if you want to log into your account on the bank, at a bank or a brokerage house, they created their own platforms, and anyone else can create theirs as well.
So investors are not forced to use the voting platforms, and thus they could get advice from ISS and Glass Lewis and then use a separate entity's voting platform. Is that correct?
That is correct, and ISS told me that if enough of their clients ask to have Sean's firm on their platform, they would add it, but nobody's asking for it.
Thank you. This hearing is yet another example of my colleagues across the aisle weaponizing an empty theory of antitrust harm to come after free speech and the exercise of shareholders' rights simply because they disagree with the content of that speech and the exercise of those rights. It's a dangerous use of this committee's power, and I urge my colleagues to reconsider, and I yield to the ranking member of the full committee.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nadler. Mr. Egan, does your firm